Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, how are my snipers doing today? I hope you guys are doing fantastic. Listen, today we're going to be doing a market overview, right? Bitcoin, altcoins, you name it. Ladies and gentlemen, we can overall see, right? We can overall see that the markets have been generally going sideways. Okay. Now, some people might disagree, but when I draw this out, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. We can see for the most part, we have been in this diagonal channel, right? We've kind of just been in this diagonal channel, ranging, generally speaking, let's just say anywhere from, let's just say 102, 101,000 to consistently around 108, 109,000, right? Generally speaking. And we can see, right? We have been going from down, up, down, up, down. But in recent times, we actually haven't pulled back that heavy. And we are looking to potentially be breaking out of this channel. Now, here's the deal, people, right? Here's the deal. I am looking for a few things before we can really confirm that we are breaking out. Number one, the first thing I notice is that we have this high over here. Okay. Then we have this lower high over here. And as of right now, we still have another lower high. So what does that mean? Well, ladies and gentlemen, right, there is no confirmation in terms of a higher high just yet. Okay. And technically, right, we have these lows, lower low, and another lower low. Right. Some could argue that this is a good enough pullback to then spring price up. But for me, maybe in the short term, but if you're talking about an overall breakout, then right, what something that could potentially happen is even if we don't close that strong right now, we could go back to this daily order block at around 106,500 and then continue to do something like this. Okay. Right. This is the next area that I would monitor. Overall, I am still a little bit skeptical, right? The reason why I say I am is because June honestly wasn't that convincing of a month. The buy candle doesn't look that pretty for the most part. It doesn't look that pretty. Okay? So, I'm just skeptical because, even if we go to 110,500 or potentially to 112,000, big question is, are we just faking out? Right? Are we just simply faking out to then potentially go lower? Something that I'm really, really looking at is, are we going to create something similar that we did back in December to the January time? Okay. Here we had a high of 104,500 roughly, right? In terms of weekly candle closes. And then we can see, right? We had a bearish candle, a pretty solid bullish candle, and then next week did look promising until the weekly closed, right? If we take away all the wicks, boom, right? Boom, it closed lower. And as of right now, we have something similar where we have a high, we had a, sell candle, we had a decent buy candle, but, you know, I'm looking to see how this candle as of right now closes. Because if it closes very poorly, then we could see a similar case where we have highs, lower high, and eventually, we could go back lower. Overall, I am still very bullish on the higher time frame, right? If we go to something like the 3 month is beautiful. It's very, very beautiful. Why? Well, if we even just look in terms of support and resistance, we can see that all the way back in 2022, 2023, when we pulled back, we simply just did a retest off the last highs. And ever since then, structure has shifted. Okay. We had a low, we had a higher high, higher low. We see higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, and higher high, which is why I was stressing so much about, I was really emphasizing that I said I want the end of June to look good. Because if June looked disastrous, then we could have potentially seen a 3 month candle like this, right? This one over here back in like 2021 and the other one in 2021, where They went up, but they rejected, right? They got rejected. And we don't want to see a rejection because when you see a rejection on something like the 3 month, right? The 3 month candle, that shows like, hey, like this is very poor. We're going to start reversing on the higher time frame and we are going to sell off heavily. But we can see right now we're just following basic fundamentals. We don't have a candle like this from, something like this from the last previous years. We have just very nice staircase upwards, right? Up, down, up, down, up, down, up. It's a nice staircase, right? Very nice staircase. Now, I will say, right? I am looking at this 3 month order block, right? So if let's just say we do fake out initially, I'm still open to the idea of pulling back to, let's say, 95,000, right? I'm still open to that. If we don't, the thing is, we don't have to, right? We don't have to. We do have a gap at 92,000, which is concerning, but we don't have to go back there now. The market makers, they can go to even 500,000 if they wanted to. And then eventually when a crash happens, we would fill up the 92K gap because that's just how the markets work. The S&P 500, some other Forex pairs I've seen in the past have gaps too from many years ago, like many, many years ago. Okay. So the market makers could really ignore it. And that's just the reality. Overall, ladies and gentlemen, I'm still very, very bullish on everything in the long term. When we go to something like altcoins, right? The others dominance, we can see that we have sold off and the lowest we got to was 6.86%. Now, my prediction, right, and it's not the truth necessarily, but my prediction was we would go down to roughly 6.50, 6.5% before we see some type of bounce up. As of right now, right, if we go to something like the daily, we're just going sideways. Yes, we do have a double bottom and technically a higher low, but nothing here is too convincing for me, right? Nothing's too convincing for me. Right now is just more of a sideways channel, and we just have to see if we're going to fake out or continue to go lower. We experienced something very, very similar back over here in, June and even the previous days, right? Especially back in actually in May, right? May was the prime example. We created some type of bottom, right? We had these like highs over here, some type of resistance. Boom, if we go like this. We went past it, but then we couldn't hold it. And then by the time the week ended, it actually looked like a very big fake out to then continue to go lower and lower and lower. So we have to be, skeptical and open, right? Nothing looks too convincing right now. So there's a possibility we could fake out, retest possibly of the 7.50. Wrong tool, but right, go here, retest off the 7.50%. If we fake out, then we will be going lower. Last time we did, when we did go down a lot, we went aggressively to the upside a few weeks later, right? Within a few weeks, we recovered very, very nicely, right? We were going sideways, we faked out, we sold off, and then we were just going up very, very nicely. Once we do have that confirmation, once that we do have that run, I expect, for nothing to really slow down, right? It's going to be the green light for everything. We're going to be going. We're going to be, then those like 3 to 5 months, let's just say, are going to be prime because you're going to see consistent gains of 5, 7, 10%. You're going to see a little bit of red days, sure, -3, -4, -2, a little bit slow days, but then you're going to see consistent 10, 12, 15, 20%. And then you're going to start seeing really crazy days, 30%, 30%, 30%, 25%, 70%, right? Once we start seeing that, that's going to indicate end times for crypto, for altcoin season. There could be 2 cycles, right? For me, though, the question is, even if my coin could go hypothetically higher, right? Even if, let's say, I did have, let's say, ICP, it doesn't matter, right? And ICP went to $80. We went from $5 to $80. And even if I believe they can still go to 120, but it might require, a second mini pump, right? A second altcoin season a few months later. Am I really going to take that risk? No. Right? Because if we went from $5 to $80, that's a very nice multiplier. A very, very nice multiplier. 16x, right? 16x. And the thing is, right, we sell it there. And if things do go down, right, hypothetically, let's say ICP did go to 80, we sold around 80. And then there's some type of retracement, blah, blah, blah. Maybe ICP goes back to 30, 40, 25, and then we see a potential second altcoin season, right? Kind of like the way we did last cycle, right? Kind of like the way we did here, where things went down, but then they got redeemed a few months later, right? If we see that opportunity, then we just simply reinvest, right? Everyone has a different game plan. Personally, I am looking to cash out from the first altcoin season because nothing, and I mean nothing, is guaranteed in these markets. Okay? But yeah, that is ultimately it, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys did enjoy, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Goodbye.